There was an article that came out today. Today? Where's the byline? Yesterday. Saying that Australia's population has finally hit 27.5 million, thanks to a lot of migration, quite clearly. And the concern, not so much on the numbers, I remember 20, 30 years ago, people were already concerned about the ability of the Australian continent to sustain the population numbers we already had. We've gained at least 8 million since then. That we are gaining a net migration of 107,000 people naturally, squeezing out new kiddies compared to people falling off the perch, and we're gaining another 300,000 through migration. So that's not bad. Extra 400,000 people, which, when you look at a couple of the other articles we've talked about in recent days, is equivalent to the enrolment of university students or TAFE students and things like that. So that sort of contextualizes. But 500,000 a year on 27.5 million might be a bit high. Might be a bit high. And yeah, people saying the numbers at historic levels. Mainstream Aussies paying the price. Okay, that's a bit inflammatory, but the intake is elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels. So obviously there was basically a complete suppression of migration during the COVID pandemic, and there was a rebound effect, and that rebound effect hasn't disappeared. We've continued to sustain higher immigration levels, which leads to people like Jacinta Price making the statements that they did. And the problem then, and we keep talking about it, is the ability of the infrastructure in Australia to sustain this rate of increase. We also did talk about the fact that there's increasing numbers of these especially skilled migrants heading to regional areas. So that previous article, if you'd paid attention as I was scrolling through, each of those doctors was from a migrant background. So be it. It helps provide health services in those areas. I'm pretty sure the people getting the health service don't care about the colour of their doctor, as long as their doctor is suitably qualified and can provide healthcare. As I said previously, there's the degree of racism within Australia is somewhat overblown, um, even out in the regional areas where everybody's got their secrets. If you're part of society and contributing to the social fabric, hey, you're welcomed. Um, so yeah, the idea that like in that article there was, well, maybe there were white doctors at the hospital, but none were interviewed. But that's kind of it is telling of this skilled migration that we're seeing these skilled migrants come into regional areas and help provide these services that would otherwise not be there. But it also comes back to how well we can sustain the growth against our existing infrastructure and the ability to absorb added numbers. And, well, I mean, again, this is somewhat inflammatory about just it contribute to the destruction of the dream of home ownership. Well, you're not building enough houses, but that also means destruction of the environment, the loss of farmland, which means less food production per capita, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so okay, so we've obviously got a bit of a focus. 493,000 the year before, so 500,000 net overseas migrants the year before, and we're talking about 315,000 this year. And the government's like, oh no, we've resumed balance. 1 year of decline. I don't know. It's still excess from what it was before. Okay, so it's dropped, fair enough, but let's see how it continues over future years. And, well, he's politicised it. Well, it's not determined by internal coalition power struggles. Pretty sure the people marching saying that there's an issue with unsustainable migration levels weren't coalition party members. But Temporary visitors as well. Okay, it's more interested in the permanent migration because your temporary visitors leave after 6 or 12 months, depending on the type of visa that they're on. The coalition obviously at the time pushed for a much lower level, so almost half, whereas the government was a lot higher. So the liberalised government, not Liberal Party, liberalised government, and okay, yep, now we're tying everything back in to the protests and things like that. Interesting to see where the numbers are going. Western Australia, well, we're seeing resources boom. In fact, there was an article, we're not looking at it today, talking about the rise in house prices, that most locations in Perth are seeing a positive net increase in housing price. Well, if you're moving people in, what do you expect? And that one's interesting. I mean, increased number of births. Yape, yape, yay. People are having more kiddies, but an increase in death rate. I wonder if there's something significant underneath that. Whether or not we're seeing a return to the normal respiratory illness levels and stuff from pre-COVID, or there's something else. Yeah, interesting. I don't think I want to read the comments on that.